You smell. Well, presumably you have access to soap and everything is fine. But your ancient ancestor, who had been hunting for 3 days straight, sweating through a prehistoric summer, smelled considerably, and they had no concept that this was a problem. For most of human prehistory, smelling bad was the baseline. It was a collective experience shared by the entire tribe. Nobody questioned the odor because nobody had anything to compare it to. There was no social framework for embarrassment. Then, roughly 4,800 years ago in ancient Babylon, someone accidentally made soap. Human hygiene quietly began to change. This monumental shift in human history grew out of a series of dirty, accidental observations. The oldest soap recipe on record dates to 2800 BCE. Inscribed on a clay tablet, it calls for water, alkali, and cassia oil. The Babylonians who used it had no understanding of the chemistry that made it work. The discovery relied on the conditions of an ancient campsite. Humans cooked meat over fires, allowing fat to drip into the wood ash, which contained strong alkaline compounds like potassium hydroxide. Rainwater eventually washed this fatty, ashy mixture down the muddy banks and into the rivers and streams where people gathered. Someone washing their hands in a stream near a cooking site noticed the water there stripped grease and dirt off their skin more effectively than normal water. Soap exists as an inevitable environmental byproduct. Because the necessary conditions occurred wherever ancient humans cooked near water, multiple cultures noticed and adopted the substance independently. What those early humans had stumbled into is a highly specific, elegant piece of molecular chemistry. This soap molecule has two very different ends. One end is hydrophilic. It bonds with water molecules. The other end is hydrophobic. It buries itself into grease. Soap forms a chemical bridge. When you rinse, water pulls the soap and grease away. Humanity possessed this perfectly adapted tool for thousands of years, yet we completely misunderstood its potential for personal hygiene. Early civilizations used soap strictly as an industrial product for cleaning wool and treating skin diseases, rather than for personal bathing. Even the Romans, who were obsessive about hygiene and built these elaborate public bath complexes, didn't use soap to clean themselves. They coated their bodies in olive oil and then used a curved metal tool called a strigil to scrape the oil, sweat, and dirt off their skin. This mixture of scraped-off body grime was called gloios. Romans collected it and sold it as a medicinal ointment. Later, in medieval Europe, medical theory claimed that water opened the pores and allowed disease to enter the body. To avoid this perceived danger, people simply stopped washing and used perfume to mask their scent. For most of human history, cultural norms and flawed medical theories prevented us from using our most effective cleaning technology on ourselves. Personal soap use remained rare because fat and alkali were expensive. This made soap a luxury that only the wealthy could afford. Industrialization in the 19th century changed the cost, making soap cheap enough for the general population. To move this mass-produced inventory, companies launched advertising campaigns that framed natural body odor as morally problematic and shameful. 19th century marketers engineered a shift in human psychology, inventing the social problem that their product was designed to solve. Your ancient ancestors smelled considerably by modern standards, but they lacked the marketing-induced framework to feel embarrassed about it. Modern self-consciousness about body odor was largely implanted by corporate advertisers a little over a century ago. The difference between you and your ancestor is a learned state of anxiety that costs about $4 a bar.